It's the mighty MSX Computer. Welcome to Classic Game Room. Pac-Man month continues with Pac-Man on the MSX, and I love the old school versions of Pac-Man on game consoles and home computers, and how they're all different from each other. The MSX one looks just slightly different than, say, the NES or Famicom release. This one actually reminds me a lot of that version of the game, but it doesn't look quite the same. The ghosts are different, the maze is a little bit different, the game plays a bit different. It's not the same version, even though it looks similar. The designers at Namcot, which was the home computer and game console division at Namco back in the day, tried to maintain the vertical aspect ratio of this screen. They didn't quite get it, but it's close. The scoring and the fruit and extra lives are on the right side, like the NES version. I'm playing this with the ASCII Stick X Turbo, which is basically the NES Advantage, not a bad controller with which to play Pac-Man. The AI isn't quite the same in this one. In fact, I figured out every time I start the game I can pull off exactly the same move, which did not work in the Famicom release, where I go down and to the left, clear out the bottom of the maze, because that's the easiest place to get stuck, so you want to try to clean that out first. There's no white in the ghost's eyes. They're, I guess, especially creepy ghosts this time around. The sounds aren't too bad. The MSX has a unique sound quality to it, which isn't quite as apparent in this game compared to some of the other spaceship shooters and whatnot. But one of the things I actually like about Pac-Man on the MSX is that it's one of the most affordable MSX games to collect, at least in the US. I got this from Japan, but it only cost me like $10, if that, maybe $8. Which is nothing compared to the hundreds of dollars it'll cost to collect MSX spaceship shooters and some of the other games that I've seen for MSX. I guess nobody wants Pac-Man. And that's a shame, because Pac-Man is a cool game on the MSX. I like how the fruits are all just like one color. Another subtle difference. Here, Pac-Man, of course, looks the same. He's yellow and hungry. Hungry for ghosts. Who isn't? Especially when they're in soup. I think they made Pac-Man soup, or maybe it's just haunted soup, whatever. Haunted soup doesn't sound so bad. At least it would be warm. This version of the game has the cutscenes, and here's some of the music, the unique MSX take on the Cheerful Pac-Man song. Here's a look at the MSX game cartridge, which has those cool circles cut out of it. Pac-Man gives me hope that there's more cool MSX games to collect which don't cost hundreds of dollars. Perhaps there's more 80s arcade classics out there in the MSX bargain bin. I'll have to hunt down some of my favorites like Frogger and Zaxxon when I'm done recording this. There are quite a few versions of Frogger out there, and maybe not as many as Pac-Man, but Pac-Man was king of the 80s. I've had a good time playing this release. The maze feels a bit squashed, a bit more condensed than some of the other ones, especially like the old Atari Computer. And this one also reminds me of the Game Gear version quite a bit. It's Pac-Man on the MSX. If you're looking for a bargain MSX game to start your MSX collection, which of course you aren't, because if you're into MSX, you're used to spending hundreds of dollars on games. It's like the PC Engine or the Neo Geo. Not a budget-priced old-school game console to collect for, but Pac-Man is worth owning. Highly recommended! Thank you for watching once again. It's Pac-Man Month, celebrating the release of my Pac-Man Collector's Guide, a definitive review on Amazon, where I give this game 2 thumbs and 1 flipper up. It's Pac-Man. I can't very well play Pac-Man on the MSX and not mess around with the speed feature. Pac-Man in slow motion doesn't really do much for the game. This feature comes in more handy for some of the spaceship shooter boss battles, but hey, It's fun to watch Pac-Man die in slow motion. Classic Game Room has been brought to you by the ultra-massive video game console guide, 230 pages of video games on Amazon.com, Retro Megatrex, and how to make a video game review show that doesn't suck. And Jesus number 2. Welcome to the Patreon Lord Carnage Club being shouted from a turbo volcano. Michael and Ariana Nelson, Ian Shore, Stephen Chucknick, Al Stever, Rick DeBarros, Jason Goy, Andy Schleiss, Sergio Matthias Hergert, Philip Strabenmuller, Jack Stavris, Ohad Kane, Simon Allen, and Sean Zoltek.